know that we talked about laws of exponents. We know for laws of exponents, we talk about the product rule. And for the product rule, we know it involves multiplying because product stands for multiplying. We will multiply the coefficients and then add the exponents. Then we have the quotient rule where we divide the coefficients and then subtract the exponents. And then we have something called power rule that we talked about today. That's one of the examples where you have 3 squared to the power of 4, x squared to the power of 3. Well, we know that we're going to multiply that exponent and that power together. So for example, this exponent is 2 and the power is 4. So 2 times 4. A special note to know is that anything to the power of 0 is going to always equal 1. We move on to these that we performed in class today. We had one where number 1 was 3 squared to the power of 5. Well, we knew we needed to separate it. 2 and 5 were both exponents, so I wrote 3. 2 times 5, well, 2 times 5 is 10. So 3 is to the power of 10. I want you to go ahead and try number 2. A cubed to the power of 4. A cubed to the power of 4. Okay. You should have gotten a to the power of 12 because 3 times 4 is going to give you 12. We move on to number 3. I'm going to go ahead and show all of number 3. Well, we knew we have 2 times a squared times to the power of 3. All of it to the power of 3. Well, anytime we don't see an exponent, we can put an imaginary 1 right there. So we don't have to put our 1 right there because we know that we're going to multiply that by 1. So we can go 2, 1 times 3. A, 2 times 3. We get a 2 cubed. 2 cubed a to the power of 6. So 2 cubed a to the power of 6 is my final answer. Okay. I want you to go ahead and try number 4. Try number 4. See what you get for number 4. 2 squared, a to the 5th power, b cubed, all to the power of 2. All of that to the power of 2. All right. Let's take a look at it. Well, we see that these all have exponents already, so I don't have to put any imaginary ones because they already have exponents. 2 times 2 is 4. And then 5 times 2 and 3 times 2. Well, 2 cubed, 2 to the power of 4, a to the power of 10, and b to the power of 6. Well, this could be my answer, but then sometimes they want you to go a step further and simplify it. They want you to go a step further and simplify it some more. So that's when I know that I can just go ahead and type it into my calculator. Well, 2 to the power of 4 is going to give me 16. 16a to the power of 10, b to the power of 6. So I want you to go ahead and try number 5. Negative 3a squared to the power of 2. All right. We take a look at number 5. We see that we have this imaginary 1 that needs to put right there. So I put this in the parentheses, negative 3, 1 times 2. A, 2 times 2. And I have negative 3 squared. 2 times 2 is 4. Like I said, sometimes they want you to take it even a step further. Well, if I put this in my calculator just as negative 3 to the power of 2, I'll get negative 9. But if I put it in parentheses, negative 3 to the power of 2, I get a positive 9. These are in parentheses, right? These are in parentheses, and this to the power of 2. So it's important that you put those parentheses around it because I'm letting you know that I'm saying negative 3 times negative 3. It's going to give me a positive 9, a to the 4th power. So I want you to go ahead and try number 6. have s squared, t to the fourth power, all to the power of 3. Well, s, 2 times 3, 4 times 3, gives you s to the 6th power, t to the 12th power. All right, if you have any questions, take this time now to write it down and email me if you need to. All right, so this one says, simplify the following expressions. Write your answers using only positive exponents. Show your work and your thinking. I want you guys to write this all down because you're going to submit it into Google Classroom. So write it down to be submitted into Google Classroom. So I'll actually just type it out. That's a little bit better for me. Just type it out. Submit it in Google Classroom. We're going to write it all down to be submitted in Google Classroom. Then I'm going to change this to line paper, just be a little bit easier for me to keep up with if it's all in wide rule. So I'm just going to write on wide rule paper. So I'm going to write it all down to be submitted into Google Classroom. Let me do it like that so it's all lined up. All pretty. All right. So we look at it. They gave me question number 1. It's 12 x negative 2 all to the power of 2 all over 6 x to the power of 4 y negative 3. Yeah. Well, kind of want to start using, kind of like my, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. If we were going to solve this, we want to solve the top half of the fraction first. So we want to look at the top half and say, well, do I need to solve anything at the top first? I want to look at this top half of my fraction and ask myself, is there anything that needs to be solved at this top half of the fraction? Is there any specific rule that we can use? And your answer should have been yes. Yes. We know that we can go ahead and use the product of the product rule. We see that there's this 2 out here outside of this parentheses. So I know I'm going to go ahead and write my imaginary 1 right here because that 12 doesn't have 1, but I see that the x does. So I'm going to rewrite this. Well, 12, 1 times 2, x negative 2 times 2 all over 6x to the 4th power y negative 3. So then I do this again. Well, I look at my top half of the fraction. I still need to solve this top half of my fraction. I need to simplify it, right? Well, I get 12 squared x negative 2 times 2 is going to give you a positive 4. Positive 4. And 6x to the 4th power, y negative 3. I look at this top half of the fraction. Am I done solving this top half of the fraction, or should I go a step further? Yes or no? Your answer should have been yes. Your answer should have been yes. We need to still keep solving the top half of the fraction. So I'm so sorry, your answer should have been no. We are not finished solving the top half of the fraction. You want to do 12 squared. Well, we should know what 12 squared is, but just to make sure, I know 12 squared is 144, but I'm going to go ahead and make sure on my Desmos calculator that I get it right all the time. So 12 squared is 144. 144 was my answer. So I'm going to go ahead and write 144 x to the fourth power all over 6x to the fourth power y negative 3. Well, now look, I'm done with my top half. So I want to look down at my bottom half and see, is there anything that I need to solve at the bottom? No, it looks like it's all solved out. So now we can move forward and use the quotient rule. We want to use the quotient. I think I spelled that wrong. Let me quotient rule. Let me make sure I spell this correctly. It looks so wrong when you're like writing it out on here. So yes, okay. There we go. Quotient. Rule. So now I want to go ahead and use the quotient rule. Well, now I'm using this quotient rule. I know I need to divide my coefficients. I need to divide my coefficients, which is 144 all over 6. And I need to add my exponents. I know 144 is my coefficients. My first exponent, so x to the fourth power. X to the fourth power. Four minus 4. And my next one is y cubed, but I realized, well, it's negative 3. I realized it's at the bottom of my fraction. So I'm going to write that in fraction form. Since there's nothing at the top, I would just assume that there's a 1 at the top of it. So I know I'm going to write 1 over y negative 3. If I go a step further, I know that 144 divided by 6 is going to give you 24. So we're going to write 24. I know that x 4 minus 4 is going to give me x to the 0 power. And I know that this is going to be 1. Well, this is a negative exponent. So anytime we have negative exponents, we have to do something called the reciprocal, which is flipping my fraction. So I know that this now turns into y to the y positive 3, positive 3 all over 1. Well, this is still 24. Anything to the power of 0 is going to be 1. It's going to be 1. And I get y cubed over 1. Well, if I turn these all into a fraction, I could put 1 underneath them. Well, 24 times 1 times y cubed is going to give you 24 y cubed. All over 1, but you don't have to write the 1 over 1. We know it's 24 y cubed. This should be your answer. This should be your final answer. If you have a question, please write it down so that you can ask me later. All right, so now moving on to the next question. I move on to my next question. It asks us, number 2. It says, simplify the following expressions. Write your answers using only positive exponents. Show your work and show your thinking. So since we have 2x cubed squared, 3x, I want you guys to try it on your own. So pause the video, try it on your own, and then whip back around and start it again, and then you're going to go ahead and work it out together. Okay, so you should have gotten to know that we're going to first use the power of power rule. The power of power rule, just by looking at it, because you see that there's a power out here and a power out here. So I'm going to put that imaginary one right there. Put an imaginary one right here and imaginary one right here, because those powers are powers. So can we write this as 2, 1 times 2, x, 3 times 2, 3, 1 times 4, and x, 1 times 4. Well, oops, should be dots. Dots. I end up getting 2 squared x to the 6th power, 3 to the 4th power, and x to the 4th power. When I look at these are all technically being multiplied. All technically being multiplied, right? I can go ahead and go a step further. Well, 2 squared is 4. 2 times 2 is 4. Times x to the 6th power times, well, we know that 3 to the 4th power is 81. So I'll go 81. Uh-oh. 81 times x to the 4th power. Like I said, I know these are all being multiplied. So since this is not being multiplied, I see that this 4 and this 81 are both numbers. And I see that I have x and an x right here. What rule do you think I can use? If you guessed the product of product rule, you're right. So I can go 4 times 4. I'm sorry, 4 times 81. That'll give me 324. X. Let me do this. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and write this out. 4 times 81. X. 6 minus 4. 324. X to the 2nd power. That's my final answer. This is my final answer. I'll move on to the next one, number 3. Go ahead and try to answer this question by yourself. Go ahead and try to answer this question on your own. Student A was asked to simplify the following expressions. Student A obtained the following result. Determine if the two expressions are equivalent. Just your thinking. So we look at this. We have 30 x to the 5th power, y squared, all over 6xy cubed, parentheses, squared. So now I can go ahead and look at this. Well, I realized that this square is outside of this whole thing. So that means I'm going to use the power of power rule for each one of these. So first I'm going to do the top half using the power of power rule. I'll go ahead and put my imaginary one right here. Imaginary one right here. And imaginary one right there. So first I want to do the top half. I know I'm going to get 30, 1 times 2, 5 times 2, and y 2 times 2. And then I go to the bottom half. Look at the bottom half. Oh. I get 6, 1 times 2, x, 1 times 2, and y 3 times 2. I'm going to go ahead and simplify this. I'm going to go 32 squared x to the 10th power, y to the 4th power, all over 6 to the 2nd power, x squared, y to the 6th power. So now that I've done that, okay. Now I can go ahead and simplify. I can go ahead and simplify this. Well, we know that this is going to be using the quotient rule, right? Because we can't do any product or power rule. So we can use the quotient rule. So 30 squared all over 6 squared. X, 10 minus 2. And y, 4 minus 6. Well, when you solve this out, I'm going to go ahead and type this into your Desmos calculator. I'm going to go ahead and simplify it. So I know I have to go 30 squared all over 6 squared. It's going to give you 25. Then you get x, 10 minus 2 is to the 8th power. And then you got 4 minus 6 give you y, negative 2. We can't have a negative number. We know that we're not allowed to have a negative number. So if I put these all underneath 1, I know that I would have to flip this fraction. I would have to flip this one because I'm not allowed to have a negative number. So I could rewrite this. 25 all over 1. X over 8 over 1. So I'm flipping it 1 over positive 2. Positive 2. 25 times x to the 8th power times 1 is going to give you 25 x to the 8th power. 1 times 1 is 1, y squared. Y squared. 25x to the 8th power all over y squared. Well, when you do that, you compare it, and you see that these don't look similar. These don't look similar. Even if you wanted to keep the numbers, well, even if you wanted to keep, I'm going to highlight this to let you know it's the answer. But even if you wanted to keep it as 30 squared over 6 squared, that x would still be at the top, and that y squared would still be at the bottom. And they put the y squared at the top, but that's not a true statement. If I go, let's go back up, 4, because that 2 times 2 is 4, and then we minus that 3 times 2, which is 6, it's going to give you a negative 2. So it has to be at the bottom of the fraction regardless. It would have been at the bottom of the fraction. So it says, what is a strategy that can be used to simplify algebraic expressions involving exponents? So everything that we have learned about laws of exponents, write it down. Write it down. In 1 minute, write the most important thing you learned from today's lesson. Okay, so everything that we have learned and we went over, did you meet your success criteria? Do you think that you were able to solve these questions on your own? Did you meet your success criteria? Okay, so after you are done, make sure to submit. So submit the problems that were done on the paper. To the Edpuzzle Google assignment, Google Classroom assignment. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. Have a nice day.